Love isn't something you just fall into. It's something you build. And yet, most of us are taught to chase the high, the thrill, the fantasy. We're taught to look for sparks, for butterflies, for someone who just gets us. But no one talks about the substance of connection. No one tells us that the quality of our relationships often mirrors the quality of our self-awareness. That dating isn't about impressing someone else. It's about revealing who you are and receiving who they are without distortion. The best advice isn't complicated. It's not poetic or dramatic. It's the truth that most people are too afraid to say out loud. So today, we're peeling back the layers. This isn't about trends or tactics. It's about timeless principles. These 6 pieces of advice, pulled from the wisdom of people who have spent their lives studying relationships, aren't meant to make you win in love. They're meant to help you understand it. We've been told to chase the spark, that if there's no instant chemistry, no electric pull, no magnetic tension, then it's not real. That love should be dramatic and unpredictable, that passion must come before peace. But that narrative has led countless people into situations where they mistake emotional chaos for depth. They confuse adrenaline for alignment. They settle for intensity, not realizing they're starving for safety. The truth is, real love doesn't always start with a bang. It doesn't always take your breath away or leave you dizzy. Sometimes it's calm. Sometimes it feels like a quiet knowing rather than an explosive pull. And that quiet is where something deeper begins. Because emotional safety is not just a luxury in relationships. It's the foundation. When you feel emotionally safe, you don't walk on eggshells. You don't second guess every word you say. You don't brace for punishment when you express a need or a boundary. Instead, you speak freely. You feel understood, not just heard. You feel accepted, not just tolerated. And that kind of safety creates the space for vulnerability, for authenticity, for deep and meaningful intimacy. Many people chase chemistry because it gives them a rush. And in that rush, they often ignore the warning signs. The red flags become exciting instead of concerning. The hot and cold dynamic gets mistaken for depth. The unpredictable highs and lows feel like love, when in reality, they're creating emotional exhaustion. That's not connection, that's confusion. And confusion is not the soil where healthy love grows. Emotional safety, on the other hand, might feel slower at first. It might not give you a roller coaster of emotions, but it gives you something better. Consistency. It gives you reliability. It gives you a sense of peace where your nervous system can relax, not react. And in a world that teaches us to romanticize dysfunction, peace might feel unfamiliar, maybe even boring. But boring isn't bad when you've only ever known chaos. A person who makes you feel safe emotionally will show up consistently. They won't make you guess their intentions. They won't weaponize silence or use affection as a reward for compliance. They'll be clear, direct, honest. You'll never have to earn their love. You'll simply receive it. And when someone respects your emotions, you don't feel like you're too sensitive or too much. You feel like you belong. Emotional safety also allows you to grow. You're not trying to survive the relationship, you're thriving inside of it. You have room to evolve, to explore your dreams, to fail, to succeed, and still be held with love. You don't shrink out of fear of being abandoned. You expand because you're anchored in trust. This kind of connection doesn't just happen, it's created through empathy, through active listening, through mutual respect. It requires both people to take emotional responsibility for their actions, to be honest about their wounds, to be willing to hold space for each other's truth without shame. So no, emotional safety isn't as flashy as chemistry, it's not loud, it doesn't beg for attention, but it lasts, it builds, and most importantly, it heals. If you've ever been in a relationship where you felt like you were constantly performing, constantly guessing, constantly chasing, you know what it's like to be emotionally unsafe. And when you finally experience a love that lets you exhale instead of brace, It changes everything. Don't settle for someone who lights a fire but leaves you burned. Choose the person who protects the flame and keeps you warm. The ones who make you feel safe are the ones who will help you build something real. Because in the end, love doesn't just need heat, it needs shelter. Clarity is often underestimated in relationships. We're taught to value chemistry, to focus on attraction, to play it cool, to not say too much too soon. But the truth is, the most magnetic people aren't the most mysterious. They're the most clear. Clarity is what creates safety. It's what builds trust. And it's what allows both people to show up with confidence, not confusion. When someone is clear about what they want, how they feel, and what they're looking for, everything changes. You're no longer stuck in that exhausting cycle of decoding mixed signals, questioning where you stand, or waiting for breadcrumbs of validation. You're not forced to become a mind reader or a strategist. You're forced to become a mind reader, an officer in the guard, an agent on a chainsaw, a cleric on a crowded street. You get to relax, to be present, and to engage with someone who knows who they are and where they're going. That's the power of clarity. It removes the fog that so many people call dating. It stops being a guessing game and starts becoming a real conversation. Clarity doesn't mean being rigid or demanding. It means being honest. Honest with yourself about what you want. Honest with the other person about what you're capable of. It means speaking your truth with kindness and strength, even if it risks losing someone who can't meet you there. Because when you're unclear, when you downplay your standards, or pretend to be more casual than you actually are, you set yourself up for pain. You enter relationships half-heartedly and then wonder why they fall apart. You say yes to people who don't align with your vision and then feel frustrated when they don't change. But it's not their fault. They only responded to the version of you that wasn't being real. That's what happens when you trade clarity for comfort, short-term peace, long-term confusion. People often confuse clarity with aggression, but they're not the same. You can be gentle and firm. You can be open and clear. You can communicate your needs without apologizing for having them. When you lead with clarity, you give others permission to do the same. You create a culture of honesty in your connection. And that honesty builds confidence not only in the relationship, but within yourself. Confidence doesn't come from being wanted. It comes from knowing what you deserve. It comes from being able to walk away from anything that doesn't honor your truth. And you can only do that when you're clear about your values, clear about your boundaries, clear about your capacity for love and your limits for disrespect. Confidence is not a personality trait. It's a result of alignment between who you are and what you accept. So many people end up heartbroken, not because love failed them, but because they stayed unclear for too long. They ignored what they felt. They avoided difficult conversations. They chose comfort over truth. And eventually, the truth catches up. It always does. You can't build something meaningful on silence, guessing, and assumptions. You build it on clarity. And clarity isn't just about words. It's about behavior. It's about consistency. It's about showing up in alignment with what you say. When your actions match your values, when your yes means yes and your no means no, people learn to trust you. And trust is the glue of any strong connection. In the end, clarity isn't cold, it's kind. It may close doors, but only the ones that were never meant for you. And the doors it opens, those are the ones that lead to real, mutual, grounded love. If you want peace in your relationships, start with clarity. Say what you mean what you say, and never again apologize for knowing your worth. Every relationship you're in reflects a standard you've either set or tolerated. Whether you realize it or not, you are always teaching people how to love you. Not through your words, but through your boundaries, your silence, your reactions, and most of all, by what you continue to accept. Love isn't just about what someone gives. It's about what you're willing to receive and what you're unwilling to entertain. When you stay in a relationship where your needs are constantly unmet, where your boundaries are ignored, where disrespect is disguised as normal, you're sending a message. You may not say it out loud, but your continued presence says, "This is okay with me." And the more you accept it, the more they believe that's what you want. People learn how to treat you by observing what you tolerate. And if you tolerate inconsistency, you'll get more of it. If you stay quiet about mistreatment, it will continue. If you constantly forgive without change, you're reinforcing the very behavior that hurts you. This doesn't mean you're to blame for how someone acts. People are responsible for their choices. But you are responsible for enforcing your standards. You can't change how someone loves, but you can choose whether that version of love is allowed access to you. That's where your power lies. Not in fixing or convincing someone to treat you better, but in having the courage to walk away from anything that doesn't align with your worth. Sometimes we mistake endurance for loyalty. We believe that staying longer proves our value. That if we just love harder, be more patient, or shrink ourselves a little more, they'll finally see our worth. But love that only works when you abandon yourself isn't love, it's survival. And it teaches the other person that your needs are negotiable, your peace is optional, and your presence is guaranteed no matter what. That is not the lesson you want to leave behind. What you allow continues. Every time you give a pass to bad behavior without accountability, every time you ignore your own red flags, you're not protecting the relationship. You're betraying yourself. Self-abandonment doesn't earn love. It only teaches people that you'll settle for less, and what begins as compromise often ends as erosion. Teaching someone how to love you means showing them your standards, not explaining them repeatedly while accepting the opposite. It's showing them that respect is non-negotiable, that communication matters, that emotional availability is not a bonus, it's a requirement. And if someone is unwilling or unable to rise to that standard, that's not your cue to lower it. That's your cue to protect it. Healthy love isn't afraid of your boundaries. The right person won't see your standards as too much. They'll see them as a map for how to love you better. And the moment you stop accepting half-effort, emotional breadcrumbs, or bare minimum behavior, you make space for the kind of love that doesn't need convincing. The kind that chooses you with clarity, shows up with consistency, and honors you with integrity. It's not about being demanding. It's about being intentional. You don't need to test people to see if they care. You just need to observe how they respond to your truth. Real love won't punish you for having needs. It will meet them with care. So if you've ever wondered why certain patterns keep showing up in your relationships, take a look at what you've normalized, what you've explained away, what you've forgiven without change, and most importantly, what you've accepted in moments when you were trying not to be too much. That's where the lesson was learned. Not by them, by you. You teach people how to love you by what you accept. Choose wisely. Because your standard sets the tone for every relationship you'll ever be in. A relationship is not a separate entity that exists outside of the people in it. It's a mirror. It reflects the emotional, psychological, and spiritual health of the individuals involved. You can't create something stable and fulfilling when the people building it are operating from unresolved trauma, unacknowledged wounds, or unmet needs. The truth is, no matter how strong the attraction or how deep the connection, the relationship will only rise to the level of the least healthy person's ability to show up with love, honesty, and accountability. Many people enter relationships hoping to be healed. They believe that if they can just find the right person, the love they've always wanted will fix what's broken inside. But love is not a cure for loneliness, insecurity, or pain. It's a space where healing can happen, but only when both people take responsibility for their own inner work. Otherwise, the relationship becomes a battlefield where unhealed wounds bleed all over someone who didn't cause them. So don't make the mistake of blaming your partner for the problems in your life. They don't have the support you need to meet the demands you have for them. If you are not at peace with yourself, you will look to your partner to provide what only you can give. You will demand constant reassurance, mistake control for care, or view their independence as rejection. You will make their behavior the measuring stick for your self-worth. And that puts unbearable pressure on the relationship. It shifts love from a mutual exchange to a place of emotional survival. On the other side, if you are in a relationship with someone who hasn't done their own work, who is ruled by ego, unresolved anger, or a fear of intimacy, then love turns into a roller coaster. It becomes a cycle of highs and lows, intensity followed by withdrawal, connection followed by conflict. And you may think you can love them into healing, that your consistency will melt their resistance, but you can't outlove someone's unwillingness to grow. What you can do is take ownership of your own healing. You can ask yourself the hard questions. Am I reacting to my partner, or am I responding from a place of clarity? Am I communicating my needs, or expecting them to read my mind? Am I seeking love, or avoiding loneliness? These questions require brutal honesty, but they also offer the freedom that comes from knowing you're not powerless in your patterns. Two healthy people create a relationship that breathes. There's room for disagreement without disrespect, space for vulnerability without judgment, time for independence without fear. There's no need to manipulate or beg for attention. Each person knows their worth, so they aren't trying to extract it from the other. Love becomes less about completion and more about connection. When both people are emotionally healthy, they are able to have hard conversations without shaming or shutting down. They can self-reflect, not just deflect. They know that conflict is not a threat, but an opportunity to understand and evolve. They are not afraid to apologize, to repair, to adjust. And that maturity builds a bond that is not just based on passion, but on partnership. But none of this happens by accident. It happens when individuals take the time to become self-aware, to develop emotional intelligence, to unlearn dysfunctional patterns inherited from their past. It happens when healing becomes a priority, not just a hope. Because the best gift you can give to any relationship is a whole, honest, emotionally responsible version of yourself. If the relationship feels unstable, ask what each person is bringing into it. Is it built on truth or illusion? On clarity or avoidance? On strength or dependency? The answers to those questions will tell you more than any romantic words ever could. You can't build a healthy relationship without healthy individuals. That's not a judgment. It's a responsibility. And when you embrace it, you stop waiting for love to save you and start becoming someone who can love and be loved. We live in a world that glorifies the chase. We're taught that if we want something or someone, we have to prove ourselves, push harder, do more. Especially in relationships, the message is often clear. If they're pulling away, chase them. If they're inconsistent, fix it. If they're unsure, convince them. But the more you pursue someone who isn't ready, willing, or capable of meeting you where you are, the more you lose your sense of self. And in the end, it's not pursuit that creates love. It's presence. Presence is not about constantly being around someone. It's about how you show up when you are with them. It's the difference between chasing attention and offering connection. Presence says, I'm here, whole, grounded, and open. It doesn't beg, it doesn't force, it doesn't perform. It just is. And when you are fully present with someone, you invite them into truth, not a game. Pursuit, on the other hand, often comes from fear. The fear of loss, the fear of being alone, the fear that if you don't keep chasing, they'll forget your worth. But real love doesn't require pursuit. It recognizes presence. The right person won't need you to chase them to see your value. They'll feel it in how you carry yourself, how you listen, how you hold space. And more importantly, how you don't abandon yourself just to earn a place in their life. When you make your presence your power, everything changes. You stop over-explaining, you stop over-giving, you stop tolerating hot and cold behavior in the name of potential. Instead, you begin to attract people who are also present, who are emotionally available, intentional and honest. And those who aren't ready for that, they naturally fall away, without drama or resentment. Your presence is an energy. It communicates boundaries without a single word. It says, I'm not here to play games. I'm not here to beg for crumbs. I'm not here to chase someone who's still running from themselves. And that energy will do more to attract the right connection than any effort rooted in desperation ever could. Sometimes we confuse pursuit with passion. We think that if we're not constantly trying, the other person won't know we care. But you can care deeply and still choose peace over chaos. You can love someone and still decide not to pursue them when their actions show they're not ready. Because love without reciprocity is not love. It's longing. And longing is not a foundation for a healthy relationship. When you're present, you're not trying to control the outcome. You're simply showing up as yourself, fully. You're offering consistency, not pressure. You're creating space, not tension. You're saying, this is who I am, this is what I offer, and I will not chase to be seen. That posture is powerful, it's rare, and it creates clarity very quickly. People will either rise to meet you or reveal that they can't. The truth is, when you stop chasing, you get to observe. You get to see who values you when you're no longer trying to win them. You get to witness how they behave without the pull of performance. And in that space, you discover what's real. Presence invites connection. Pursuit chases validation. One says, I know my worth. The other says, please see it for me. And no lasting love can be built on the latter. You don't need to chase what's meant for you. You don't need to lose yourself in proving your value. You just need to show up in your truth, in your wholeness, in your presence. Because the most magnetic force in any relationship isn't effort, it's alignment. And the people who are aligned with you will feel your presence and meet you there without being pushed. Too often, we build relationships on common interests, shared hobbies, favorite movies, similar tastes in music, or mutual social circles. And while those things feel exciting in the beginning, they don't guarantee long-term alignment. Interests can connect us, but they don't sustain us. What sustains a relationship, what makes it truly lasting, is shared vision. A deep, mutual understanding of where each person is headed, what they value, and the kind of life they want to build. You can love the same activities and still want entirely different futures. You can laugh at the same jokes and enjoy the same vacations, but if one of you values stability and the other craves freedom, if one is ready for commitment and the other is still avoiding responsibility, the relationship will eventually fracture. Not because there wasn't love, but because there wasn't alignment. Shared vision is about more than compatibility. It's about purpose. It's about knowing that the person beside you isn't just here to enjoy the present with you, they're also looking in the same direction for the future. That alignment creates safety, it builds trust, and it allows both people to move through life side by side instead of constantly pulling each other in opposite directions. When there's no shared vision, love can feel like a tug of war. You spend time negotiating, compromising your non-negotiables, shrinking your desires to maintain the connection. You hope they'll come around. You try to be patient. You tell yourself the timing is just off. But underneath all of that effort is a simple truth. If someone doesn't want the same life you do, it won't matter how much they like you. Because love without shared direction is like a beautiful car with no fuel. It looks great, but it won't take you anywhere. Having a shared vision doesn't mean your lives have to be identical. It means your values align. It means you agree on the things that matter most: family, communication, commitment, growth, legacy, contribution. It means that when you picture the future, your visions don't cancel each other out. They complement each other. That kind of connection builds longevity. It turns love into partnership. It becomes not just about how well you get along, but about how well you move through life together. A person can be fun, attractive, charming, and still not be someone you can build with. And it takes wisdom to see the difference. Immature love is drawn to excitement. Mature love looks for alignment. You reach a point where shared playlists and weekend plans don't mean much if the other person can't meet you in your bigger purpose. You start to care more about emotional maturity than charm, more about direction than attention. And when you meet someone who shares your vision, everything becomes clearer. Communication becomes easier. Decisions are made with mutual respect. Conflicts still happen, but you're not fighting to be heard. You're working toward a shared outcome. There's a sense of us, not just me versus you. That's what vision does. So why not give it? It unifies. You don't have to force it. When someone is right for your path, the conversations go deeper, the plans go further, the connection goes beyond just feeling good. It becomes meaningful. It becomes rooted. You feel less anxious, not because everything is perfect, but because you're building something real with someone who sees what you see. So while shared interest may spark the beginning, it's shared vision that carries the relationship forward. Look past the surface. Ask the deeper questions. Listen closely to how they speak about their future and see if it matches your own. Because love should feel like partnership, not persuasion. And the right person won't just love where you are. They'll believe in where you're going and want to go there with you. Like, that's true.